G'day ladies and gents, and welcome back to War Thunder. Today we're going to have a look at the Warrior, and a little discussion about the late rank 5, early rank 6 meta, and potentially how armoured fighting vehicles such as the Warrior, the BMP, potentially in the future the Bradley, and the Begleitpanzer fit into the War Thunder meta. And we'll also have a look at roughly how well they do and what maybe we could improve, I suppose. So the Warrior itself is reasonably impressive, to be honest. The gun itself is quite a small caliber gun. I believe it's only like a 30mm. Has 100mm of pen with the APDS. Nothing really special. But you can use it to take out lightly armored targets and even to some extent engage planes. It hasn't got a great muzzle velocity to do that. Even helicopters, not a great muzzle velocity, and not a great rate of fire either. And as a result, you aren't really going to be that effective, but it's still a bit more effective than firing your main MBT gun. However, on the Warrior, there are two things that stand out, which are the Milan ATGM, and this is the Milan 1, not the Milan 2, which is even more impressive, with an extra 150 something millimeters of pen. The Milan 1 for the battle rating does more than enough, and I'm going to be excited when I unlock the Milan 2. I'm just going to be wrecking everything, and it's going to be great. So the Warrior has the ATGM going for it, and it's also got speed. As you can see, I'm doing a pretty decent speed down this hill and across the map. And what I'm trying to do on this larger version of Eastern Europe is basically get onto a flanking spot, scout the enemies, and the ones that the MBTs don't kill, I'll kill with the Milan. I'll also be hunting down the BMPs and Object 120s and lightly armored stuff with the cannon. But that's more of a secondary thing. My main goal here is to look for heavy tanks like IS-7s, IS-4s, T-10Ms, and engage them rather than pick off the light ones, because the light targets are quite easy for MBTs to deal with, especially MBTs with HEAT-FS and APFSDS. One small thing I'd like to note about the Warrior is if you look off to the right hand side, your gun sight gets shrouded in smoke because of the engine, which I believe is also a thing on the BMP. I can't really remember, but that's just something to keep in mind. Try not to take engagements off your right hand side. If you can, turn the hull or even face the rear. If you are in a situation where you can do that. Just remember you won't get as good gun depression. So as you can see here, I am looking for what has capped A, and it's a BMP in the water. I'm not going to waste any time in putting a Milan missile straight through that crew compartment. I would have gone for the cannon shot, but it's just too unreliable. The BMP will easily turn around and shred me, so it's just safer to take the ATGM. Now, I'm continuing over to the bridge, and the more I go past, the more I get closer to their spawn. So I have to keep a constant lookout for what could possibly be around their spawn. I don't want to spawn camp, and I do end up traveling all the way to their spawn just because the way the map is laid out. So you can see me using the forest and the hills as cover, and the cover just happens to give you a nice concealed route to their spawn, which is a bit of poor map design, to be honest, on the part of Gaijin. It's not really optimal for non-toxic gameplay, I suppose. But regardless, I'm here anyway, so I might as well make the most of my situation. I'm by Windmill, where if you're in the town, that's a pretty cancerous spot. Spotting some stuff, and I'll launch missiles at them. Try and get that kill, and it's a Leopard. I don't manage to get him first go, but I know my team is there to finish them off. And it so happens that an AH-1G finishes it off. So you can see me here just constantly lobbing missiles, get an RU-251, which I could have gotten with the cannon as well, but I decided that it would be a better idea, again with the missile at longer ranges, to take that out with the missile rather than the cannon, because, again, it's difficult to judge the velocity if you're not used to it, and I've only played a handful of games. Now, for those of you who like large maps, and also like the mouse, look away, because that was pretty filthy. The mouse doesn't really have a place on this large map, and I'll make a video on the mouse a little bit later, but it's basically a meme tank, so it's never really going to be truly competitive, and that was the entire aim of Gaijin, to never make it competitive in RB. It's a meme tank. It's a prototype tank, so I understand that that since people want it to be competitive, and it's not, it makes them a little bit upset, but realistically, I think that it's always going to be just a meme tank. Anyway, I'm having a little engagement here with the T-44-100. Now, I get up close that distance so I can use the cannon, and just as I pop over the ridge, I'm in their spawn. So, again, proving that the cover just leads to their spawn. I take out a Gepard, and essentially, I've just overextended myself massively. You can see where my team is. I really shouldn't have pushed that far, but if I wanted to save ATGMs, which I'm starting to run low on, I would have gone for the, I would have kept my distance, and that probably would have been better in the long run. Get a hit on a Panther 2, and that's when I start to panic. So this is practically the end of the Warrior for me, and I shouldn't have panicked. I should have popped smoke, kept scouting, and kept an eye out behind me. Because that's one of the problems when you go push all the way to their spawn. You get people coming out of their spawn, and as you turn around to go rearm, repair, retreat, find some better cover, you end up getting popped, and it's really, really frustrating for me who likes to play super aggressively and sort of get behind the enemy. But at the same time, I can imagine how frustrating it must be for enemies who, just spawn and then get their ass handed to them. So, again, unintentional spawn camp, and I get served for it. Raketen Jagdpanzer 2. So the Warrior. It's a kind of interesting tank. Or armored fighting vehicle, I should probably say. But the way it functions in War Thunder is in a bit of a supporting role. AFVs in general seem to be pretty interesting, because they have that firepower and they're replacing the anti-tank guided missile carriers quite efficiently, and it's really, really good. I'm really enjoying the AFVs because they scoot around, high speed, good weaponry. They can take on each other quite well, and their whole idea is to not get spotted by MBTs in the first place, which is kind of the way that I like to play the game. So for me, they fit my playstyle, and I'm happy to back up other MBTs and everything like that, and I'm happy to do some scouting, which is admittedly kind of fun, albeit not very rewarding. I would like to see a lot higher rewards for scouting, and I would also like to see a bit more of a recognition for scouters. So perhaps, I don't know, add them on the stat card, or make it really, really lucrative to be top of the team. If you're top of the team, it's probably because you've done the scouting, for example. Because at the end of the day, scouting is really, really important for any tactic. Gathering intel, gathering information, and using the combination of the mini-map and the chevrons on the actual map, like you can see there just on the A point, you can really, really change the tide of a battle with the amount of intel that you're gathering for your team or for yourself. Because remember, you can also gather some intel for yourself, keep a track on several targets at once with your scouting, and that can be really, really valuable when you're in a multiple engagement situation. Alternatively, as you can see, I'm playing Cass. The close air support needs the chevrons basically to function, especially with the guided radar guided anti-air. If you've got radar guided AA up, you need to make those passes quick, efficient, snappy. You need to get those rockets off or your bombs off and get out of there. So having targets scouted for you already as you come into the AO is extremely valuable. And whilst in this case there are no radar guided AA up, which leave me and the Sea Fury free to, get 2 very nice kills with RP3s, it leaves you with this really interesting situation. A Sea Fury really, really can't compete with the radar guided AA. And at top tier Britain, you've got the Meteor, which I read, I don't know how true this is, but I read it could carry 16 RP3s, which is kind of frustrating because I want some good CAS for my Brits. But, little things. AFVs in general, though, as I said, really, really fun. They fit the meta quite well, and they're adding a bit more flavor to high-tier battles. I would like to see them raised in BR a little bit, because it's just getting to a point where the AFVs tend to dominate 8.0, where the MBTs don't really have a chance, and, chuck them all up to 8.3, 8.7, I think. And you've got some really, really good support vehicles, provided that you make support extremely lucrative. So, for example, I don't know, as a ballpark figure, double the RP of scouting. That would be a good start. Perhaps increase the spawn points cost or the spawn point reward of scouting. Find a way to increase things and make it a bit more viable, a bit more what would the word be? Sort of just interesting. Make it more rewarding. Make it just allow people to gravitate towards it, because at the end of the day, everyone's just playing MBTs because you can rack up 10 kills with them. But if you can get 10k RP from scouting 5-10 vehicles, then that would make AFVs extremely valuable for the individual player, and they're already extremely valuable for the team. So we've got a bit of a win-win there. The whole situation at mid to top tier, so around 7.7 to about 8.7, 9.3 roughly, is quite interesting, because you've got a couple of small helicopters that can't really do much, and you've also got those 8.0s and the 7.7s that haven't got radar, SPAA, etc. in their lineup. And as a result, you get this really interesting blend of CAS and planes, tanks, AFVs, SPAA, tank destroyers, ATGMs, and it's really, really good to finally jump into a high tier game and see not MBTs. Because I've recently been playing a fair bit of high tier, like top tier tanks, and it's just Abrams, Type 90, Leo 2A4, T80B. Nothing else. Maybe a BMP, maybe an Object 120 that's been up-tiered. I'd really, really like to see a bit more diversity of the vehicle types. So that would basically flesh out the matchmaker a little bit more. It'll have some really good consequences, because everyone's not playing the same stale meta over and over and over again. You see a BMP, you load your heat shell or something like that, because I've played plenty of matches where I've shot BMPs and nothing. But yeah, let me know what you think, because I'd really like to see more AFVs. I'd like to see certain American ones, the wheeled scout vehicles. I can't remember what they're called, but there's a million different things that Gaijin could potentially add. There's so many things. Maybe even as an event vehicle, the the Japanese Jeep with the ATGMs. That'd be quite funny. I'd like to see that. But yeah, let me know in the comments section below. This match, I quite enjoyed playing this match, because I got to do basically everything that I enjoy in War Thunder Ground Forces, which is close air support and scouting and supporting, and ATGMs. I find ATGMs amazing. They're a lot of fun to use, and they're quite fun to counter as well. You have an ATGM fired at you, and you just sit behind a tree, wait for it to come to you, and then it'll explode like nothing ever happened. And then you pop out, fire your ATGM, and kill them, because they're not behind a tree, or they're not behind any hard cover. So yeah, that's the Warrior. That's AFVs, and I honestly think that I'd like to see more AFVs, and I'd like to see Gaijin encourage more AFVs. So Gaijin, if you're listening, get onto it. It's going to be good. It's going to be great. And if anyone was wondering whether or not they should grind out the Warrior, or the BMP, or the Begleitpanzer, or finish off that light tank line getting ready for the Bradley when it eventually comes to the game, I'd say go for it. It's a great tank, and it's a great way of playing War Thunder. Anyway, ladies and gents, take care, and I'll catch you next time.